Have you ever felt like you were right about anything? You know, I came home from work the other day, and I don't know about you guys, but when I get home, it's time to get comfy. Some people call them pajamas. I call them house clothes. Take the wallet out, take the hat off, kick off the shoes, change the pants. Boom. House clothes. Come on. Right? Well, then the next morning, I'm getting ready to go to work, and I'm like, where are my keys? I know I put my keys here. I always put my keys here. I don't know where they are. This is crazy. I just kind of get caught up in that, right? Like, in my mind, I'm saying 1,000 times I put those keys there. And the other part of my mind is saying how they're not actually there. And these two competing ideas just kind of short-circuit everything, right? To where I'm not even looking for the keys. I'm just standing there staring. Half my brain's in total conviction those things should be there. The other half in total disbelief that they're not actually there, to where I just kind of painted myself in a little corner and I'm not moving. That's where it seemed like I was a little over 6 years ago. I could not understand why everybody thought I had a problem. I didn't have a problem. To me, it seemed like they had a problem. I had everything under control. I couldn't see it, even though I was withering away to 130 pounds. That I would just start shaking uncontrollably every couple of hours if I didn't get a drop of alcohol in me. And while all of that was going on, I still thought that I was this amazing husband and this loving father and this successful businessman. All of that was just crashing and burning right in front of my face. It was awful. But my experience with my addiction and my recovery, that allowed me to see that refusing to admit when you're wrong can literally destroy your life. And it can keep you from understanding what's actually wrong and how to fix it. I also learned that willingness, respect, and curiosity, these are vital tools for repairing what's wrong. And in the first few years of my sobriety, I started to notice some of the symptoms I faced in my addiction we now face as a society, like the inability to accept new information and the unwillingness to be wrong. I mean, I was immovable in the fact that I was right no matter what anybody had to say about it. And in our society today, we are running into one major hurdle after another, and we are stumbling right now. From mass shootings to reproductive rights to climate change, we're failing to find a way through it all. Instead, we're finding plenty of fear and anger and division. And that is terrifying to me. It just seems like all these issues are stacking up one on top of the other, and they're crushing us. And we aren't able to make any meaningful decisions to overcome these hurdles because we don't even understand each other anymore. I mean, look around. From the highest forms of our government to our very own kitchen tables, we're going at each other like a couple of cage fighters. We want to land that knockout punch. We wind up knocking each other out, and nobody wins. I mean, think about it. How many of us haven't talked to a friend or family member in years because you just can't believe what they believe, right? You just see the position they've taken and the conclusions they've come to, and you compare that to the position that you've taken and the conclusions that you've come to, and we never bother to find out what lies behind all of that. Like, what are their perceptions? What are their intentions? What are their needs, their fears, their beliefs? Why aren't we looking for the keys? Instead, we see in our mind 1,000 reasons why we're right, and they're in their mind seeing how to them we're not actually right. And we just kind of root ourselves in what we think we know, and we make assumptions and accusations about everybody else without even bothering to understand them. And here we are, painted into our own little corners with a thick coat of self-righteousness. Well, after a couple of years as an investigator in New York City, I decided to do a different type of investigation. I decided to dig a little deeper into some of the causes and solutions to this epic divisiveness that we find ourselves in today. I went to conferences on peace building. I spoke with and interviewed these peace builders. I read books and took courses on understanding and conversations. I learned how our brains and our emotions can work for us and against us, but more importantly, I noticed But our feelings, they're not facts, no matter how strong they are. That was a big one for me to digest. But I am here today to tell you that the option to not be this divided, this angry, and this scared all the time, it exists. Come on. Right? The quickest way to get there is to communicate with those you hate, but with the goal of understanding them. Now, I didn't say you had to agree with them. You can still walk away voting the way you vote, thinking the way you think, feeling the way you feel. It's just time we started to understand each other again. Because in our increasingly polarized world, what we need now is a more constructive and respectful exploration of our differences. And it's like the author Catherine Schultz once pointed out, that until we realize it, being wrong feels exactly like being right. So maybe it's time we all admit we're not always right about everything, you know? Maybe we can practice a little thing they like to call intellectual humility. And then we can take a step out of our little corners and walk right through that self-righteousness and get a little messy. Because morality differs from one society to the next. And in any given society, it'll be different from one group to the next. But more or less, morality boils down to treating other people well. So, to put it bluntly, it's not about being right or wrong anymore. It's about not being a jerk. So, I want to encourage us all to go out there and have a conversation with someone that you know thinks differently than you do. Not to debate your point, but to better understand theirs. Now, trust me, I know it is very easy to go from, I wonder what they think, to, well, let me tell you what I think. Right? So we want to aim at being curious rather than combative. And speaking of combative, I'm not trying to ask anyone to go out there and confront the biggest bully you disagree with, not at all. I just want us all to have more conversations with the people we come in contact with, the ones in our immediate world. These are your friends, your neighbors. These are our fellow citizens. Heck, that guy might even have the keys you should be looking for, right? And doing this will allow us to see that we all have more in common than we think, probably more than we would like to admit. And just some of the benefits of practicing some intellectual humility are improved communication, reduced conflict, and increased empathy. And I'm hoping we can all agree that we need a lot more of those things these days. So remember, just because we don't understand something, that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. And just because we disagree, that doesn't make us enemies. So I want to leave you today with a quote from Marie Curie that really brings it home for me. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. And now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. Come on.